Well, Steve, you'll be very happy today. I am not going to be animated at all.
Oh.
I'm probably going to stand right here for the entire service because I have no idea what I did, but I twisted the wrong way or something and I've thrown my back out.
Can you come down to this pulpit?
You expect me to walk down there?
I'm just asking,
We will try.
because I need to get
No.
down to our level.
Now, Kim, I'm telling you, that's a little low.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that.
That's okay. It's kind of funny in a way, some of this, because when we talk and we look at the scriptures today, first thing it talks about is Isaiah, about how all God's people are going to be included. You'll notice that it was not talking, he was talking to the Jews, because all the foreigners that are going to come are going to be included in God's house. It's a house of prayer. It's a place for all God's people. When we get to the epistle or the letter, Paul again is reiterating that. But God is for all people, not just for one particular class of people, but for all people. And now we get to this place in the gospel that has always been hard for me when we think about it. Now, what do you all think when you think of Jesus? A loving, healing, kind, and gentle person, right? And tell me, why does he call this woman a dog? Why does he tell her that it's not for him, for her, and for her dog? Has anybody ever really listened to that parable or talked or heard it? The story of Jesus? The first part of it makes complete sense to me. Because when you read it, all that it's really talking about is that we as human beings are the ones that defile what is holy and what is unholy. You know, it talks about us. It's what comes out of our mouth, what we spew out of our mouth, that makes us holy or unholy. I don't know about you, but I've always had a quick wit and a sharp tongue, and I can say some stuff, and I can hurt people's feelings really easy. If that's what I choose to do. And all of you have the same ability, if that's what you choose to do. And Jesus was just telling us that. That's what comes out of our mouths. When we deliberately hurt somebody, he's talking to that. And now we get down a little bit further. And we get to a Canaanite woman. And I love this, a Canaanite. So does anybody tie that back with history in the Bible? When the Jews first went to the Promised Land, who do you think they were told to defeat? The Canaanites. They were told that they were the idol worshipers. And that's whose land they were given, is the Canaanites. So here we have a Canaanite woman and a Jew. And that Jew is Jesus. Now Jesus was raised in Israel. And he was raised with all the prejudice. Now I don't know about all of you, but I've heard enough prejudice in this particular little town to do me a lifetime from a lot of different things and a lot of different reasons. I've heard prejudice against race. I've heard prejudice against sexuality. I've heard prejudice against women where men think they're superior. I've heard class prejudice. And I hear it over and over again in my work and where I sometimes go. I hear prejudice about children of mixed race. And I don't always understand it, but I know we're all brought up with different prejudice. One of the prejudice that were passed on to me as a child was from my grandfather, who said, whatever you do, don't grow up and marry a white man. Because they were Indians, and they didn't trust That's what I was taught. So prejudice comes along with our life. And Jesus was no different. And now we have a woman here. A woman that I think we all need to look at. A woman that was taught to hate the Jews, just as much as the Jews were taught to hate the Canaanites. How would you feel if somebody came and took over your house? Would they be your favorite persons? Now this was the Canaanite woman. But there was a thing in her life that she cared more about than anything else. And that was her sick child. Her child that in that time and place they said was tormented by a demon. Probably a child with epilepsy. But it was a child. And the woman loved the child. So she lowered herself to talk to a Jew. And she said, "Son of David, my daughter's tormented. And I need you to heal her." And Jesus didn't answer her. And I sit there and I think about that. I've always known when I go to my Jesus, he answers me. He hears me. How would I feel if that was that woman and all of a sudden Jesus wasn't listening? And wasn't hearing me? And the disciples were right along with him. They said, "Send her away. Tell her to leave us alone." And Jesus gives her a story. And he says, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. I was sent only for one class of people. And it's not fair to take that food from those children and throw it to the dogs." And I love her answer. It's an answer all of us need to learn. Sometimes my feathers get up. I don't know about you. When I hear hate or hateful words, I want to strike back with what? Same thing. Hateful. Hurting words. But she says, "Yes, Lord, I agree with you." Yet even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from the master's table. For me, this is a lesson that Jesus learned. Jesus learned a lesson. Does that tell me I have things to learn? Does it tell you have things to learn? For Jesus then thought, and he answered her, "Woman, great is your faith. Let it be done as you wish." And her daughter was healed instantly. Is our faith good enough? Good enough to live through all the insults we've received? Is our faith good enough to live through even this first part, which is really just tradition? In this story, traditions of what you could eat and what you couldn't eat. Traditions for us of how a church service should go and shouldn't go. Traditions for us of who is saved and who isn't saved. How do you come about being saved? You know, we all have different traditions. We all have different beliefs. Do we have to pray the sinner's prayer to be saved, to be part of the church? I see some of you thinking, have to ask for forgiveness. I see some of you thinking, There's a difference here. Jesus says, "Woman, great is your faith." He didn't say change what you believe, but your faith is great. And what you ask for, you will receive. He told the Pharisees in the beginning, let's not argue about traditions. Let's not argue about doctrine. Let's not worry about who is right and who is wrong. where you see everything that God has created. It's there for a reason. He talks about the blind guiding the blind. One blind person guides another, they'll fall in a pit. I always liked that. Because I always thought how true. But all of us will be led by someone else who thinks they have the answers, and that person might be blind. Blind spiritually, blind academically. Oh yeah, God gave us a brain and He expects us to study that Bible and understand it. And so that brings the academics into it. Maybe blind by that tradition that we're brought up in. But blind. And if we're trying to lead each other, what are going to happen to us all? We're going to end up falling into that pit. But just as Jesus learned a lesson from that Canaanite woman, that all people are created by God, and they're all worthy of God's respect and God's love. They are of ours too. It's so very, very, very important to remember this. And also to remember the place Jesus came from. You know why he'd go to Tyre? It's a place of rest. He was tired. He'd worked so hard, healing, feeding, and preaching. And now we have somebody who's got enough nerve to what? Interrupt his vacation? Interrupt his time? Is there any wonder that he got nasty with her? Do any of us do that? When we're interrupted in our places of rest? Well, maybe some of us except Linda. But that's what Jesus was teaching. It's what we all need to look at inside. We need to look at things like, do I do it because of tradition? Do I do it because of doctrine? Do I judge people because of some way somebody taught me to judge them? Or do I open my heart to all God's people and take a moment to learn? Because Jesus sure learned. He learned that this Canaanite woman had faith great enough to even get through rejection. Where's our faith? And who are we that we don't think we have something to learn? Even my Lord and Savior. We are here as a church. We are here as God's people. I invite you all to be like the Canaanite woman and have your faith great enough to know that your will or your wish will be granted as long as you believe.